Good morning. Happy Thursday. Right on the edge of the weekend. I can feel it already. It's in the air. How are we doing, guys? How's your week been so far? Have you been inspired? Have you been creating? What have you been up to? My friends, there's Miss Dawn. Hello. How are ya this morning? Sorry, little nose itch. How we doing there, Sonia and Ruth? So good to see you guys this morning. How's everybody feeling? Good morning. Good morning. Fran. Hi, guys. Wendy says no sound. Oh, no. That's no good. Okay, hold on. Gosh. Give it a wiggle wiggle. All right, how's the sound now? Give me a thumbs up. Let me know how the sound is. It's constant. I'm telling you. I got to get some of that canned air, which is just such a funny thing to me in general. Good morning. Good morning, Eve. Hi. How is everybody? I know I've asked that like 3 times, but apparently there wasn't any volume when we got started, so nobody heard me. That's all right. Oh, goodness. Good morning. Good morning. All right, guys. So let's talk about today's project, shall we? I'm excited about this one because you guys know that I'm a huge fan of the Beadalon tying station. That's this guy, for those of you who are new or may not know what the tying station is. Yes, I've already got a piece of cord here attached to my tying station. But this is what we're going to be using. That's going to be the main tool for today's project. And I always get really excited about these kinds of projects because they are very nostalgic for me. I started making jewelry when I was a teenager, and knotting and hemp cord and just cord in general was something that I used on a regular basis. My friends and I would make jewelry and we would sell it to our friends, and everybody had these really fun necklaces. And that was really kind of my first, not only jewelry making experience, but also kind of like my first entrepreneur, okay, I give up. Experience selling things to my friends. And it was a lot of fun. But back then we didn't have a tying station. So we used things like safety pins, and we would safety pin our work to our knee. A lot of times we would sit with our knees up and we would like safety pin our work to our knee, or we would use a clipboard. A lot of times if we were at school and, you know, in between classes or in between when we were supposed to be doing work or whatever, you know, we would use our clipboard, and that way you could like fold it flat in your book or in your, you know, your folders and stuff, and nobody would know that it was there. So you wouldn't get in trouble for, you know, not doing what you were supposed to be doing at school. But that's why I love the tying station so much. I really love knots. I feel like there are so many knots in the world and I only know such a small fraction of them, but they're so fun, and I always get excited to show those to you guys. So that's what we're doing. We're going to make a knotted hemp and bead stringing wire bracelet, and we're going to be using, because I know a lot of times people feel like hemp is more like a summertime you know, material to use, but Beadalon offers these handy variety packs that you can get on the Jessie James Beads website. Mine is missing the top. I had to cut it off for something else, but it does have it normally comes with the Beadalon logo. But Marlene, I am a naughty girl. It comes with different colors here. So you've got like your standard, just regular. Uh-oh, I'm going to have to plug you guys in. Hold on. It says my battery's running low. Hold on. Okay. So it comes with just your standard, like regular hemp color on the bottom. And then there's like this khaki green color, which is what we're going to be using today. And there's a gray and a black. So you've got some options here. And I thought that we would just leave out the regular hemp color and pick from one of these. I chose to use the kind of green khaki color, if you will. But any of these is going to work, and it's going to look more fall style. That's kind of what I'm going for. Okay, I'm going for a fall look, and it's really hard to create a hemp anything that looks like fall or winter when you use this very summertime color. So I love that we've got some options here. As far as our beads are concerned, guys, the check glass has been restocked on the Jessie James Beads website. So I'm going to be using some of the brown honey check glass. And these are kind of hard to show you from here, but I will show them to you when we get down on the mat. Catherine, I hope you get better soon, my friend. I hate to hear that. But we're going to use these brown honey check glass beads, which, to be completely honest with you, is one of my favorites out of all of the check glass beads on the site. Guys, there are some really gorgeous check glass beads, but I am always drawn to this one. I have used this check glass bead, brown honey, in several of my own personal projects just because I love it so much. So it's going to look really good with our kind of khaki colored hemp. So we're staying in like the fall color palette, very neutral. We're also going to use some pops of copper and some silver with this. And the project itself, a lot of times we use, we will knot onto a leather cord or another piece of hemp. And today I'm going to show you how to use a piece of bead stringing wire as your core, which is going to make things a whole lot easier when you go to create your clasp, because we're going to treat it just like we would bead stringing wire with a crimp bead and jump rings and that whole bit. So if you've never done that before, this is going to be a cool project for you to see, because it's going to show you how you can really make a piece of hemp jewelry not necessarily be a knotted, like button clasp, braided clasp situation. It's going to be a real honest to goodness piece of jewelry with a real hardware situation. I love that word, at the end. Okay. Before we get to that though, let's talk really quick about the weekly deals, and then we will get right down to it, guys. The weekly deals change every Monday. And so you've still got some time. You've got the rest of today, tomorrow, and the weekend to shop these weekly deals before they change again on Monday. There is a free tassel set with a $29 cart, and the code for that is JJB Tassel. There is buy 3, get 1 free on bundles, and the code for that is bundle. This is a really good one to start stocking up if you are running low this time of year. Supplies and beads. I feel like this time of year with so many projects and holidays that I'm always running low on things. So that's a good one. And then last but not least is 10% off all cord. That includes the hemp that we're going to be using in today's project. And the code for that is all hemp. I'm sorry, all cord, not all hemp, all cord. Don't mess that one up. And of course, if you forget what those are, you can always find them under the weekly deals section on the Jessie James Beads website, and you can click on the shop this special or shop this deal. I'm not really sure exactly what the wording is, but that way it'll take you directly to what you're looking for, so there are no questions about what you have in your cart, whether or not the deal applies to it or not. Okay? All right, let's get down to it. Okay, first and foremost, every time I turn the camera, the sound goes wonky. So please let me know immediately if the sound is wonky and I will adjust accordingly. All right, let's get down to it and let's look at these beads, shall we? All right. So, all right, let me give the cord a little wiggle wiggle. Let me know how the sound is, okay? All right. Let me bring over my beads here. I just can't stop thinking about the canned air. Is it not funny that it's wonky? Is it still wonky? Let me know. Because I did give it a little wiggle. Okay, good. All right. It just cracks me up that you can buy air in a can. Like, really, there's air? Like, I'm paying for air in a can? That just, okay. Anyway, I need that to fix my... to fix my contacts. That's why that is even on my mind. Okay, so guys, these are the brown honey check glass beads. Are they not beautiful? Like, I'm super, super in love with these. I feel like they are so pretty and so good for fall. It's a beautiful neutral, but it's one of those neutrals that has its own personality. So it's not just like a plain brown bead, right? You're getting those different shades of brown and tan. This looks good with almost every metal. It looks so good with golds and coppers. It looks beautiful with silver. It looks really amazing with rose gold, which we don't use a lot of. We should probably try to do that soon. But this color just, it works so well with everything. So those are the check glass beads that we're going to be using. And let me just show you what it looks like alongside that kind of green hemp color. It really makes the green, and I say green very loosely, it's a khaki color. So it's just a neutral, it depending on what you mix it with, this is going to lean towards green, or it's going to lean towards brown, or it's going to lean towards gray. It's one of those, like it could go a couple of different ways. But when you mix these two together, I feel like they look really beautiful. If you don't feel it just yet, you will once we get the bracelet started. You're going to see how well these work together. Now, something that I didn't mention as we were getting started that we're also going to add to this is, guys, over on the Jessie James Beads website, there are, if you pull down the menu for specialty beads, there are specialty metal beads that are also available. And I pulled some of the little copper leaves, and I went ahead and put these on head pins and just made simple loops on these just to kind of save some time, because the bracelet itself is going to take a little bit of time. But I want to show you, we're actually going to use these as dangles for our bracelet when we get to the end. But I wanted to show them to you because I feel like they are perfect for fall. So I'm going to lay these in here as well. The little copper bead that's on the top is just one that I had in my stash. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. I just felt like it needed a little extra something. But honestly, the leaves look beautiful all by themselves. So I just went ahead and put those on head pins and made simple loops out of those just to save some time. But this is basically it. The only other thing you're going to need for this project is your hardware for the ends and a piece of bead stringing wire. Okay, so let's get started with that. So on our Beadalon tying station, okay, for those of you who are new and have never seen the tying station before, this is a really handy tool that you can use for so many things, but is really great for any kind of knotting that you're going to be doing, because you can secure your work at the top and at the bottom, and it has a ruler along the side. It's also open here in the middle, so you can really get your fingers underneath your work. Okay. So what I've done is I have a piece of just regular bead stringing wire here. I'm using some silver bead stringing wire. Guys, you can grab all the bead stringing wire that you need over on the Jessie James Beads website as well. And if you want to use gold instead of silver, please go for it, okay? I haven't done anything to the end of this, and all I want to do is just loosen up this acrylic plate here at the end of my tying station and just kind of stick my bead stringing wire through there. I want to give myself about 1.5 to 2 inches sticking out the end, okay? And then I want to tighten this down nice and tight so our bead stringing wire is not going to go anywhere, okay? Now I'm going to bring this down here to the other end, and we're going to secure it on the other end as well. But first, we want to thread on our check glass beads. So I'm going to thread on 8 of our check glass. Okay, there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. All right, there are our check glass beads, okay? Now, we want to do the same thing down here on the other end. We just want to secure our bead stringing wire, so just loosen your plates. You don't have to take the washer and the whole thing off. Just loosen it up enough so that you can slide your bead stringing wire in there. Pull it as tight as you can get it. Now, it will come loose as we're working. It's going to lose its tension a little bit. That's just kind of the nature of it. So you will probably have to readjust and tighten as you go. But to get started, go ahead and tighten that down as tight as you can get it. Okay, so now we've got our beads. We can slide them up. We can slide them down. Okay, and everything is nice and secure, giving us the ability to use our hands, both hands, and we don't have to hold this down to anything. Okay, so now we're going to take our hemp cord. I'm using about 7 feet of hemp. Always be sure that you use plenty of the hemp, and it's a good thing that it is inexpensive because you do have to use a lot of it. Don't cut what you think your bracelet length is going to be, because remember, you're going to be creating knots with this, and depending on the kinds of knots that you're going to be using, it can use up even as much as an inch to create certain knots. So you have to take that into consideration. Okay, so I've got about 7 feet of this khaki color. I'm going to just bring my 2 ends together so that I can find the middle. Okay. So there are my 2 ends. I'm going to hold on to them. I'm going to slide down here and find the middle. Okay, there's the middle of the hemp. And I want to place the middle underneath the bead stringing wire. Okay, and just pull one side to one side and the left. So now I have left and right is basically what I'm saying. Okay, now it's underneath our bead stringing wire. Our bead stringing wire is going to be our core for all of our knotting, all of the work that we're going to be doing. Normally, like I said before, we use like another piece of hemp, or we even use pieces of leather, but very rarely do we use bead stringing wire as our core. But it's a really great option because you can finish the ends with hardware. So that's what we're going to do. Now, we're going to start out with 2 square knots. We're not going to, I mean inches, not feet. No, I definitely mean 7 feet, 7 feet of the hemp. I'm gonna start with 2 square knots, okay? And then we're gonna just do some half hitch knots. So the square knots are really just kind of to anchor everything together. That's gonna be our beginning and our end. So this is the square knot to get started. I'm gonna take my right-handed cord, okay? I'm gonna create a P shape over our bead stringing wire, okay, and that hemp is going across the top of the bead stringing wire, and now it's coming off over here to the left, okay. Now I'm going to take my left cord, or my left side of my hemp. I want to be sure that it is crossing over the top of the hemp that we brought over here to the left side, but now I need to go underneath everything. I'm going underneath the hemp and underneath the bead stringing wire. I'm going to bring it up through the loop and pull. That's the first step of our square knot. Square knots happen in 2 steps. So let's see, Donna Gemma says, which bead stringing wire are you using? I'm just using the silver 19 strand. Sorry, I wish I had like more specs for you on that one. I should have been more specific about that. I apologize. All right, so your square knot happens in 2 steps. So step 1 just happened. Now we're going to do step 2. Okay, step 2 is the same as step 1, just a mirror image. So we're taking the left-handed cord. We're going to create that P shape, or backwards P shape here. Our cord is going over the top of our bead stringing wire. Okay. And then we're going to take the right-handed cord. Want to be sure that it stays over the top of that. And then it goes underneath and up through the P shape that we made over here on the left-handed side. And then we pull. And now we have a square knot. And I can slide my knot back and forth, which is fine for now. Okay, that's totally fine. Now I'm just going to repeat that one more time, and that's going to be it for the square knots, because we're going to move on to something else. Okay, so again, I'm going to start over here on the right-handed side, make our P shape. Our hemp is going across the top of our bead stringing core. Okay, taking the left cord over. Okay, and then underneath and up through that P shape. Sorry, I'm having trouble holding on to everything today. My fingers are freezing. That is not helping me at all. Okay, and then we pull. Okay, now we just want to repeat that on the left, making our P shape. Right-handed cord goes underneath everything and up through that P shape. Okay, and then pull. All right, so now we've got 2 square knots. Randy says square knots always confuse me. I know, and unfortunately, I feel like I'm the world's worst at explaining the square knot. Luckily for this project, we're only doing 2 at the top and I think 2 at the bottom. All right, I'm going to slide these all the way up here to the top. Okay, so they're right up against the acrylic plates. All right, now we're going to switch to a different knot. This is going to be the knot that we use for our project, and it is a whole lot easier than the square knot. Not that the square knot is hard, it's just that, like Randy said, it can be kind of confusing, okay? So all we're going to do is we're going to take our right-handed cord. We're going to do one side at a time, okay? We're going to take our right-handed cord. We're going to make that P shape again, okay? But we're only using one cord to do this, so it makes it a little bit easier, okay? Our P shape with our cord going over the top of our bead stringing wire core, okay? And then we're going to take the tail end of that underneath the bead stringing wire and up through that same P shape that we made. So you're only working with one cord here, which makes that whole little situation a little bit easier, okay? And then you want to pull. And when you pull, you want to pull your cord out to the side and then slide up, okay? So slide up on that bead stringing wire, okay? Now we're going to do the same thing, but this time we want to go underneath the bead stringing wire. So we're making that P shape again, right? But this time we're going underneath our core wire. Now we're going to take the tail and go down through that P shape. Same thing, and you just want to pull, okay? So we did that on the right. Now we're going to repeat that over here on the left. So we're going to take our left cord, making that P shape, okay? Taking our left cord underneath the bead stringing wire and up through the P shape and slide. So we're just doing the exact same thing, just a mirror image of it, okay? Same thing. This time we're going underneath our bead stringing wire and down through that P shape and pull, okay? We're going to do that one more time. So P shape over the top of the center cord, up through that P shape and pull. P shape this time is going underneath, and then we're taking our tail down through, okay, and pull. Guys, we've actually done this whole knot before in another project. It's just been a while, okay? Same thing on the left. Our backwards P shape, we're taking our tail under the bead string wire up through the P shape and then underneath for the P shape and down through. Now, what happens with this, and I will raise it up for you so you can see it, what happens when you alternate like that, we're creating what looks like lace almost. You see the holes? That's where we're going to hang some of those beautiful copper flower beads at the end. But you can see it creates these really cool lacy shapes in our hemp, okay? All right, now we're going to continue to do that, but we're going to do it over a bead, okay? So I'm going to tighten up my bead stringing wire a little bit. As you pull on the bead stringing wire, it kind of gets loose. So every once in a while, kind of tug on that bottom and tighten it up. So I'm going to slide a bead up, and I'm going to just continue. Let me move you down a little bit so maybe you can see a little bit better, okay? So I just move a bead up, and I'm going to continue that exact same technique. We're just going to do it around a bead. So again, I'm using only the right-handed strand, okay? Making sure that that bead is up there where it needs to go. Our cord is going across the center, okay? Then I'm going to take the cord underneath the bead stringing wire and then the tail, pull that through and then pull up, okay? And you're going to kind of lock that bead in place. Now we're going to repeat. This time we're going underneath for our P shape and then down through, okay? And then pull, and that definitely is going to lock that bead into place. And there is daylight between the bead and the cord. That's exactly what you want, okay? Definitely what you want. Okay, now we're going to do the left-handed side. So just going the same way. Sorry, my bead string wire keeps getting very loose on me here. Tighten that. Okay, so again, doing the left-handed side this time. So our P shape, underneath, up through, and pull. This time Our P shape goes under and down through. Okay. All right, now we're going to do that again, this time without a bead. Okay, right side, P shape over, up through, and pull. And then under the wire and down through. And pull. Okay, repeat on the left, P shape, up through, and our P shape is going underneath. You have done this knot in another life. We've done this knot before. This is one of my favorites. It's just been a while since we've done it. All right, now we're going to slide another bead up. Okay, we're just going to repeat this pattern. So P shape, pull, underneath, down through, and pull. Repeat on the left. Okay, P shape, up through, pull, our P shape going underneath, and pull. Okay, we've locked a second bead in place. See how pretty that is? I don't know if it's coming across on the camera nearly as pretty as it is in person, but for a knot, because I feel like sometimes people feel like knots are very masculine. I really don't feel that way. I feel like knots are kind of sexy cool. So I don't really see them as being necessarily, you know, feminine or masculine. I just think that they're cool. But I feel like this is a very, if you were gonna give it a, you know, if you're gonna give it a gender, this is a kind of a feminine style of knot because it very much resembles lace when you are putting it together. Yeah, very lacy looking. I really, really enjoy the pattern of this. I feel like it's so versatile because even without beads, this is a really pretty kind of beautiful knot that you can really experiment and do lots of things with. And guys, I think that's probably my favorite part of knotting, is the fact that there are so many different options with the exact same knot. So our beads for this, we have kept our beads in our center, but you can do the exact same knotting technique and not have beads in the center, but put your beads on the outsides. So every time you go to knot, put a bead on this outer piece and then do a bead on this outer piece, and it gives it an entirely different look, even though it is the exact same knot. So always keep that in mind. Like, you can play around with the knots. Once you get the knot part figured out, then figure out all of the different options, all of the different things that are possible. All right, sliding another bead up. Hi, Rochelle. All right, we're going to do the right-handed side, so our P shape with our hemp going over the top of the bead stringing wire. That right-handed cord coming up through and pull. Now this time the P shape goes underneath and then down through and pull. And guys, I don't know if you can tell, but remember our tushy knots? That's what those are. Those are our little tushy knots. Remember the two little legs and the belt holding the pants up? So they're basically just lark's head knots. We're just alternating. We're going one on the right and then we're doing one on the left, one on the right and one on the left. And we're doing it with a single cord instead of like your standard for a lark's head knot. You would use, you know, two pieces. You would have two pieces to form the knot. Hold on, got to tighten up again. All right, now we're going to do the left, over the top, up through, pull. This time we're going under and down through. Hazelnut Romance. I like it. I like it a lot. All right. All right, now we're going to do 2 without a bead. So there's across, up through, under, and down through. Okay, now we're going to do the left. Across the cord, up through, underneath, and down. Okay, so we have done this knot in the past, right? But what makes this so different from anything we've ever done is that we're using the bead stringing wire as the core for this. So you'll see when we get to the end how different all of this is going to come together. And it, instead of being kind of a, I don't know how to explain it. Not that there's anything wrong with knotted loops and buttons for closures, but this will have an actual, like, you know, lobster, and there will be crimping and that whole bit. So that really kind of turns this into I guess it kind of makes it in a different class of hemp jewelry, if you will. Okay, left-handed side. And we are at the halfway point. So we've only got 4 more beads to add to this. Okay, we're going to do without. Pull. On the left without a bead. Slide. Oops. Okay, now we're going to slide a bead up. Half time. What are they playing this time, Wanda? What's the song? I feel like probably the standard is Crazy Train with this group. The halftime marching band is definitely playing Crazy Train. And I mean that in the most loving way ever, you guys. All right, so I'm just kind of speeding through these knots here now because I feel like you guys have seen quite a bit. Wiggle it. I'll take that as well. Oh goodness, I don't think I've ever heard a marching band play Wiggle It. That's funny. Good morning, Catherine. Okay, now we're going to slide up another bead. You can see just how pretty that is without the beads. So you can do the beads without the beads, add the beads on the edge. I mean, there are so many options. It's always exciting to me to show a knot or learn a new knot because then I get to think about all of the possibilities, right? All of the different ways I can incorporate my favorite beads. And changing up the cord that you're using also changes things up. So using a flat cord, using a satin cord, all of those things make a difference in the way it's going to look as well. So even if you wanted to keep it exactly the same, but just change up, instead of using hemp, maybe use a nylon cord or a cotton cord, it definitely will change the look of it as well. But I love using the bead stringing wire as the core because we can finish this off in kind of an official jewelry way instead of, you know, doing the loops and adding a button, which I absolutely love for the summertime. And I feel like that's, you know, it's completely acceptable for the summertime, kind of in the friendship bracelet style, right? But this really definitely takes this kind of out of the friendship bracelet category and puts it in a category with just regular, you know, regular bracelets. Not that there's anything wrong with either one, right? I just know that one time I had somebody say to me that for the longest time they felt like hemp jewelry and knotted jewelry with any kind of cord was, you know, not that they, I don't remember exactly how they worded it. It wasn't that it was beneath them, but that they never really considered it grown-up jewelry, right? And then they started, you know, following along and learning some of the different techniques and the different patterns and projects that I used with knots, and it kind of changed their mind about it. So if that's the way you feel about hemp or just knotting in general, I hope that this kind of takes it to a grown-up place for you where hemp jewelry or just knotted cord in general can be grown-up jewelry. It doesn't have to just be summer camp or beach wear, right? This can be something that you wear all year, and you know, it's not, you don't look like you're trying to be young. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to look 13. I don't want my jewelry to reflect that either, but I don't feel like this is, you know, 13-year-old summer camp jewelry. That's all I'm saying. All I'm saying. Knotting and cords can be absolutely beautiful. Can you do this with leather? You absolutely can do this with leather. Depending on what all you're going to be using, I would probably stick to a thinner leather. So like a 1 millimeter or a 1.5 millimeter leather is probably going to be your best bet, because it makes a prettier knot. The larger the cord, the less pronounced these little lace openings are going to be. Okay. All right. So we've made it all the way down here to the end. I've added all of the beads. I'm going to finish off just like we started. So I'm going to do another round of just the right and the left. And then we're going to finish this off with the square knots. Let's see. Donna says, yay! Donna says, I've never thought about getting hemp cord, but this is so beautiful. How can you not want to make it? I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Yay. See, changing your mind about things every day. That's my favorite thing. All right, so let's see. We've got 3 loops. 3. I was just checking to see how many loops we had at the top and how many we had at the bottom. Okay, so now I'm going to finish this off. What size wire are you using for the core? It is 0.46 millimeter bead stringing wire. Okay, so to finish this off, we're going to do 2 square knots, okay? And that's just because that's how we started, and it's also going to give us an opportunity to tie off our ends, because remember, we've got bead stringing wire here in the core. Okay, so walking through the square knot again, okay? So I'm going to take the right-handed cord, creating that P shape. It's going across the top of our bead stringing wire, okay? I'm going to take the left-handed cord, make sure that it comes over the top of that cord. Don't go underneath our hemp that's going that way, okay? Now go underneath and up through the P shape that we made on the right-handed, on the right-handed side, okay? And pull. Now we need to repeat that on the left. So P shape on the left, take our right-hand cord underneath and up through that P shape and pull. There's our square knot. And we're going to do one more. Yes, Nicole, these are gorgeous brown honey check glass beads on the Jesse James Beads website. These are my favorite. There are really beautiful check glass beads on this site, but the brown honey is my all-time favorite check glass over there. All right, so P shape on the right, left-handed cord underneath everything and up through and pull. Same thing on the left, our right-handed cord up through. Okay, that's going to finish off our 2 square knots. Okay, so now one thing that I want you to notice is that we've stopped at right about 7. Okay, we're right at 7 inches. However, you are going to add an inch to this because of all the hardware we're going to put on the end of this. So we're probably going to end up with more like an 8-inch bracelet. Peggy says, where do you get the ruler that you're using? So this is the tying station, and super, super handy. You can grab this over on the Jesse James Speeds website. Super, super fantastic tool, not just for this kind of project, but you can use it for so many different things where you need to attach the top and the bottom, and it's got your ruler, and you can get your fingers underneath here to work. I love it, love it, love it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take this off of the tying station. Okay, so I'm going to undo on the bottom and on the top. Okay, and set that over to the side. Now I'm going to flip this over to what I'm going to consider the back. Okay, and we are going to tie a knot. Now this is just going to be a regular knot. So I'm going to take my left hand and my right-handed cord, cross them, and just tie a regular knot. Okay, and I'm going to bring that down, and I want that to lay on the surface of the last square knot that we made. Okay, so that's going to sit on the back of that square knot. Okay, now you can do it again if you want to double up on it. Just be sure that you pull it down nice and tight. You don't want to have like a big bulky knot, because remember, this is on the back of the bracelet, so this is going to be up against your skin. Okay, pull it down as tight as you can get it, and then I like to come in with some of the Hypo cement, and it just takes a tiny, tiny bit, you guys. So I like to take the Hypo cement and just do little drops around the folds of that knot. Okay, because we do need to trim off the ends, and we want to trim them as close as we possibly can, but I'm not going to do that until after I let that dry a little bit. Okay, and excuse me, if you don't want to trim these off, you obviously can thread some beads on, tie some knots, and then trim them, and you've got 2 dangles on either side of your bracelet. So if you like that look, you can leave those. Otherwise, you can cut these when your glue dries. Okay, now because we are on bead stringing wire, we're going to be able to finish this off the exact same way that we would. And I didn't forget about the charm, so we're going to do that, but let's go ahead and do this part first. Okay, so we're going to grab a crimp tube or a crimp bead. Okay. And you're going to need a jump ring. You need a jump ring and a jump ring and a clasp. What happened to my clasp? There we go. All right, so I'm going to put the clasp on this one. So I'm just going to go ahead and open up my jump ring, thread on my lobster clasp, and then close that back. Okay. All right. So I'm going to take one of my crimp beads. I'm going to thread that on to the end of my bead stringing wire. Okay. Now I'm going to take the end of my bead stringing wire, and I'm going to thread on my jump ring with my clasp. Then I'm going to take the tail end of this, I'm going to go back through that crimp bead, okay, to create a little loop, and then I'm going to pull everything down. Now, if you want to use a wire guardian here, you absolutely can. I just normally, I normally leave those out for our projects, okay, but I don't dislike them at all. I use them all the time. I'm just not for this one. Okay, so you want to be sure that your bead stringing wire is not crisscrossing inside that crimp bead or crimp tube in my case. Okay, now you want to come in with your crimper tool and you want to place that in the back notch. Yes, Karen says she adds a wire guardian before her clasp. I usually do that too. Okay, I'm going to give it a good squeeze. That's going to separate the 2 bead stringing wires within that crimp So now they're no longer touching each other, okay? I'm going to take that crimp. You can look at it and see the fold in it. I'm going to place it side to side in that first notch of the crimper tool and give it a squeeze. And that's just going to make it a little bit more compact. You can cover that with a crimp cover if you want to. I'm going to come in and trim off the tail of the bead stringing wire. So now we've got this hemp bracelet, right? But it's finished off with actual hardware instead of knots and a button or knots and a braid, okay? We're gonna do the exact same thing down here on the other end. So I'm going to thread on my crimp tube onto my bead stringing wire, thread on my jump ring, and then I'm gonna take my bead stringing wire back through the crimp and then pull everything down. I've got a little excess of the bead stringing wire here, so I have a lot to pull down. Okay, pull all of that down right up next to the last knot that you made, okay? And again, make sure your bead stringing wire is not crisscrossing inside that crimp. You want to crimp, back notch, give it a squeeze, put it in the front notch and squeeze. Okay, now you want to come in with your cutter tool, trim off your tail. Okay, so now we have actual hardware on either end of our bracelet, and this has dried. It's not completely dry, but it is dry enough for me at the moment to come in and trim off. Okay, I'm going to trim close, but not completely yet, just to kind of get these tails out of the way. Now, after it sits for a little while longer, I will come in and trim right up next to the knot, okay? Wanda says, hemp suddenly becomes wire. It's like a magic trick, right? Totally. All right, so here is our beautiful bracelet, and we're not done. We're gonna add our little leaf beads to this because I like to turn mine into a charm bracelet, okay? And so to do that, I'm going to use some little 4mm jump rings. Whoa, that is way too many jump rings. Got a little overzealous there. Yes, it would make a really cute anklet for sure. All right. Now, remember how I showed you the knot that we used makes all these little cute little loops. So just pick a side, any side. You can actually do either side. You can put these on both sides if you want to. I'm just going to stick with one side. And I'm going to open up 4mm jump ring here. Okay, I'm going to thread on one of my little leaves, and then I'm going to thread it onto one of those loops and close it back. Now I have simple loops on the top of my leaves, so I actually could leave out the jump ring altogether, but to me it's just another way to kind of tie in the silver since our clasp is silver. So I'm using the jump rings for that. Okay, so I'm just going to do that to each one of our little loops. And again, you can really make this a cha-cha bracelet by putting charms or beaded dangles on both sides of the bracelet. It's totally up to you. I'm just going to leave it on one side. But if you wanted to do both, you could. It'd be really cool. And you can see how it's, you know, we've taken kind of a summertime technique and really turned it into a fall feeling or wintertime feeling bracelet, right? Because hemp knotting is a very much summertime. But I feel like with the right materials, you can definitely get away with this any time of the year. It doesn't have to just be strictly a summertime jewelry or technique. Oops. And I feel like the color of the hemp really kind of helps with that as well. I feel like it would have a totally different feeling if we used that lighter, just that kind of natural color hemp. I feel like it would still really have that kind of summertime feeling. So I feel like the darker hemp definitely accomplishes our goal of making this more of like a fall and wintertime look. All right, and something to mention, because before we took this off of the tying station, I showed you that we were going to we ended right at the 7. So we had 7 inches of our braid or our knots. You can follow the exact same pattern that I used, but if you need a larger bracelet, you can make your adjustments with the hardware instead of, you know, trying to figure out how much more hemp or how many more beads. Just add extra jump rings to the end of this, to make it longer. That will make it a whole lot easier on you than trying to decide how many knots, if you can add a whole nother bead or not, because sometimes the knots, it adds length before you can blink an eye. And so you may end up with too much bracelet if you do it that way. So you definitely can adjust the length with the hardware. I just find that it's easier that way. Totally up to you, but I just feel like it takes the frustration out of like over creating the bracelet and then not being able to take any off, right? So let's go ahead, let's trim. Let this sit here long enough. And I really am, I'm just cutting right up against the knot. That's why that glue is super important, because you don't want that knot to come undone. And if you feel like you still don't have enough glue, you can always come back later, add a little bit more. But if I can lay it out nice and pretty, there's our bracelet. And I'm supposed to be charging our iPad here, but it keeps telling me the battery is about to die. So we're going to have to speed through our goodbyes. But there's our bracelet. I'm going to turn you guys around. Sonia says at the start she wasn't sure, but now she loves it. Yay! I'm so glad. I'm so glad. I feel like it really is, you know, it's a grown-up friendship bracelet, right? Definitely not your summertime summer camp style. All right, I'm gonna turn you around. Oops. All right. And give you a little wiggle. Hope the sound is okay. All right, so I'm gonna hold it up so you guys can see what it looks like up here a little bit. So you can see definitely fall. I've definitely got a fall feeling from this, right? So there you go. I like it. I'll take some pretty pictures of it for you guys. Those will come to you in your Jessie James Beads email. So be sure that you've signed up for that over on the website. Don't forget to check out the weekly deals. And that is it for me this week, you guys. You can catch me on Sarah Ellis Designs tomorrow at 1 p.m. if you want one more project from me before the week is out. Otherwise, you can catch me on Monday night at 7 p.m. for our Monday Maker project. That is 7 p.m. Eastern time, so set your reminders for that. If I don't see you between now and then, have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and I will see you guys again soon. Bye, guys.